It has been brought to our attention that depending on the platform that you listen to, you can no longer hear some of our previous episodes.
Some of our favorite episodes.
Some of the ones where people would reach out and say, hey, listen, I can't believe that you talked to insert whatever name here.
And honestly, it makes us a little sad that you can't go back in time and have a listen because the stories were really incredible.
We reference a lot of times, we had a chance to talk with so-and-so in the past. And if you can't go back, then it's kind of just, So we wanted to bring some of those guests, some of those former guests back into the spotlight.
We're going to call it like a rerun, I think.
A Why Me Project rerun.
Do you remember those?
I do. Back in the day, or you used to throw the tape into the VCR and, we're dating ourselves.
We are, but a rerun was the opportunity to rewatch one of your favorite episodes. Now everything's so accessible. Well, we thought it was.
Yeah, exactly. So without further ado,
here's your Why Me Project rerun.
This week we have a chance not only to have an ISG, an in-studio guest, but to really get to the heart of the matter of this guy and just his faith.
Yeah, faith and football. It's a great combination.
He is Mr. David Beard, my friend. How are you?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Nice,
All right, so we like to ask this skill testing question because we never know where it's going to go. David, who are you and where did you come from?
Oh, I'm David Beard. I am most recently from Sherwood Park, and that's my story. it's my location at least. But
have you always been? And I wanted to ask this question and not make it sound like it was going to sound, but I'm going to do it anyways. Have you always been this big? And it's me not calling you fat. I just know that you are a big guy.
No, good question. I was actually talking to my parents about that. We were just visiting my parents up north, and I was looking at some baby pictures because I got a 6-month-old and thinking about,
sure.
he's a pretty big kid too. But I've been a big kid my whole life. I was never an absolute giant until kind of late high school, so I was a late bloomer for sure.
Do you get it from your parents, or?
I was going to ask, is it genetic? Or?
Well, my dad's 6'3", so he's pretty tall, and my mom's side, all the men in the family are pretty big too, so I think it definitely runs in the family. It's not a fluke or
He comes by it honestly.
Yeah, it's true.
Because, 6'5", 325-ish.
Minus 15, but yes.
Okay,
yeah,
I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Depends if it's on season or off season, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. True.
I mean, we do want to talk about the off season and that as well. But was football always the career that you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, football has kind of turned into something that I've come to love, and it's. When I look back, it's like, how could I not have dreamt of this? But in all reality, when I was growing up, I wasn't a football player. I didn't even watch football. My family could care less about football when I was a wee kid, but as my hockey dreams came to a close by missing hockey tryouts, and
oh no,
I ended up coming to love some football, and it obviously paid off, and I get to play kid sport for a living. So yeah.
There you go. You missed the hockey tryouts.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
So with my family, we moved around a little bit growing up, and we ended up moving from Olds, Alberta to Sherwood Park, and it was right during hockey tryouts, and so Dad said, hey, I got a new colleague who his kid is going to be trying out for football. You should go check it out. And so gave it a shot, and tell you what, I kept the bench warm, really, really warm that first year, so that was good. But no,
well, it must have been a learning curve from hockey.
Oh yeah.
Are there any other sports that you played?
Yeah, pretty much everything except for football
okay.
until that point. Yeah,
there you go.
Except for lawn bowling, maybe. Everything.
You said you moved around a lot. Was that difficult for you?
I've been asked that a few times before, and honestly, I can't say that it was very difficult. I came with ease for the most part. There was obviously some natural hiccups of trying to establish some new friendships and all that kind of stuff, but other than that, it was good. Yeah, it was a pretty easy childhood, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah. Had a good.
What were you like as a student in junior high school, and then into university?
Wait, let me guess. You were quiet and you sat at the back.
No, that's not the truth. I maybe at first, because I had to. This is right in junior high when I made that final move, but I was actually pretty busy. I was a pretty busy kid. I was playing sports all hours of the day. Just go to school, go to practices of all kinds until late at night, and then eat supper and go to bed. So it was I was a pretty busy kid in junior high school.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, one sister. She's living east of Sherwood Park. She's a paramedic by trade.
She's 6'7".
No, she's like 6 feet. So
still, oh goodness, it really makes me feel so short just standing next to you and Johnny.
We'll get pictures.
Okay,
it'll be fantastic.
It's perfect.
So I mean, you're dealing with the sports side of things. You're all of a sudden, you found this love of football. Where did the faith side of things come in?
For me, I grew up in a Christian home. That was kind of my whole story. I was fortunate to, or blessed, I should say, to have parents who were both believers, and they brought me up going to church. I loved worship. I loved hanging out with some friends that used to go to church with and all that kind of stuff, and that was all great and stuff. But if I'm being totally honest, when I was about 15 years old, I started attending a youth group that I had to ask some pretty serious questions. I ended up asking my pastor, like, hey, there's some big questions I'm going through here in my head. And so I ended up really taking my faith seriously at that point. But up until that point, you would have asked me if I was a Christian, I probably would have said that, or I would have been a believer. But yeah, it was a process that kind of unfolded over a long time. But yeah.
It's always interesting for us folk who grew up in homes where God was the center of the home, and it was, faith was just a regular conversation in the home walls. There's always that transition where it's like, okay, that was what my parents believe, but what do I believe?
Oh yeah, totally. So that was exactly what happened for me. My parents raised me in a very healthy way, I think, and I eventually knew that I was answering questions like, oh, Dave, why are you a believer? And it's like, oh, because my parents are believers and they told me to go to church, so I should go. But yeah, it turns out there's a lot more to that. So
no kidding. Well, what was it that was that moment that you're like, this is the reason why this is the life I'm going to choose?
Well, it was that exact question I remember being asked in junior high. Hey, are you a Christian? I was like, oh, yeah. Well, why are you a Christian? I really don't know, actually. So I ended up having to ask those questions for myself. And I remember bringing that up to my parents and saying, hey, I went to this youth group and we got talking about some pretty interesting things. And they answered the questions to the best of their abilities. But I remember my dad specifically saying, hey, maybe it's time to go talk to your pastor and meet up with him and see how things go. And I ended up talking with him, and over the short period of time after that, I kind of decided that this is for real, and I gotta take my faith to be my own and not somebody else's. So
is it tough though? Because I remember being in high school and playing sports and that, to juggle having a faith and going to church and that, and also playing the whole sports side of things and not fitting in with what a lot of your teammates are doing. Actually,
being that I was kind of taking my faith really seriously at that point, my faith was relatively elementary, if you want to put it that way. And it was sports, and I separated that from the rest of my life, which I separated from church at that point. So my faith in sports and the rest of my life were all kind of compartmentalized, and I kind of separated it that way. But as I kind of progressed into university, I got involved with Athletes in Action and get some excellent teaching and better understanding on how to actually integrate my faith in sport and know that God actually does want to be a part of every part of my life, not just church. Yeah.
Not just a Sunday Christian, as they say, right?
Yeah, that's right. Don't put him back on the shelf.
So you graduate high school, you're then going to university. Was the goal still football, or was it to get an education?
It was definitely education. Coming out of high school, I did relatively well within the sports realm. I was coming into university and I had what I thought limited football experience or talent. And so I remember meeting up with a friend of mine named Isaac, who's on staff with Athletes in Action, and telling him, I don't think I'm a superstar. I don't know how much I'm going to contribute on the field, but I still want to make a difference. And so he got me plugged in with Athletes in Action, and I learned how to be a light on my football team aside from just being on the sports field. So coming out of high school, university, definitely was education as time went on, and I realized that I actually had some potential to be able to continue to make a living playing a kid's game. Then it kind of played out from there. So
what did you go to school for?
Kinesiology.
Okay, so you graduate, you somewhat graduate. You get drafted second round, 16th overall by the Edmonton Eskimos. Did you know that it was going to be Edmonton? Did you know that you were going to be drafted?
No clue. As a matter of fact, I was beyond thrilled that I even got drafted. Part of that story was that in my last year of college, my fourth year, I ended up breaking my wrist halfway through the season, and I was unaware that I'd broken it. And through the training staff trying to get it figured out, basically we said, come on, Dave, it's not that bad. You just gotta suck it up or whatever. And so I ended up playing through it and just taped my hand up, and I was playing kind of one-handed because it was sore. But I mean, obviously I wasn't letting everyone know that. Later on in the off season, coming into my draft year, I got an invite to the National Combine, which was a super cool opportunity, and I was floored to even have that invitation. But they unfortunately revoked my invitation because I had to get surgery because I found out that I broke my wrist a few days before my wedding, actually. So I went into this kind of draft process feeling like I had no draft currency. No team had seen me work out or the only film that they had was me playing one-handed. So I felt like my opportunity or chances of getting drafted were pretty low. But time went on to tell that Edmonton ended up drafting me, and I was super, super grateful for that. I mean, that's pretty special to get drafted, period, whether or not you get an opportunity to play in the CFL. But to be able to get drafted in your hometown, that was the cherry on top.
And arguably the best team in
100%
in the CFL. So no bias here.
Yeah, no, of course not.
You're going through high school, and it was the struggle between juggling sports and faith. You then go into college. Was it more difficult to juggle the sports and the faith, or you felt a little more rooted in your faith that you could then kind of move forward?
I would say the latter, probably more rooted. I found I had a really good community at U of A with Athletes in Action. It was a good group of friends they were fellow athletes that I would be able to bounce ideas off of, listen to what they had to say, maybe share some things of my own. But it was a good group that helped me stay focused on kind of what was important. And obviously, being that we were struggling on the scoreboard with U of A football at the time, I was doing my best to be able to give glory where it's due. It was a good opportunity to be able to be involved with Athletes in Action at the campus level.
Why do you think there's such a close connection between faith and football? You don't always see that connection in other sports, whereas football, it just seems like they pray together after the games. They have big dinners with the Grey Cup week. Why do you think that is?
No, it's so true. And I don't actually have a real answer to that. It is definitely true. You see sports like hockey and basketball, even baseball, little less of a faith-based culture around the sport. But yeah, football, for whatever reason, does. I'm thankful for it because it makes it a lot easier to practice your faith. So it's pretty special. I know that before and after each and every game as a team, we say the Lord's Prayer together, and that's a great opportunity to pray together as a team. But then for those who choose, they'd like to, then after the game, we also pray between each team as well. So whoever the opponent is, say it's Calgary or whatever, then we'll come together after the game and we'll pray. And that's pretty special. It's something that I really appreciate as a player. And yeah, it's pretty neat. It was something that I wasn't exposed to prior to.
So you get drafted, then is there off-season training? You step into training camp. What is that like?
It's kind of catch up on life. There's a lot of things that kind of get pushed to the wayside during the season, so now it's just kind of catching up on projects, that kind of stuff. Spending some time with family, taking some time away from the gym, just been playing some basketball, get your mind off football a little bit.
Let's talk about family for a bit. When did you meet your wife?
So I met my wife at Athletes in Action. So really actually cool. It's like people sometimes ask me to share my testimony, and that's one of the cool parts of my testimony. But when I first came to U of A, at the same time where I told you about meeting with that fellow named Isaac, a good friend of mine, Vanessa, my wife, was already at U of A, and she was just wrapping up her last year of her kinesiology degree. So I was coming in, she was going out, and at the time I was actually dating somebody else, and I was off the radar, so to speak. So we kind of met each other. It was great, cool, whatever, and then I ended up getting to know a good friend of mine, and now my brother-in-law. He's an awesome dude, and I got to know him, got to become good friends with him, and he invited me to his wedding, and ended up meeting Vanessa again. And, hey, I know you. I remember you from Athletes in Action. So I reconnected her with her at the wedding later on. And
the second time, did you know?
I was a little drooly. I was a little drooly the second time. But I was stone cold the first time.
Yeah, because you're off the market.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
Honor roll, right?
Yeah. Do you think that your wife understood what it would like to be married to a professional athlete?
Maybe you should just ask me if I understood what it'd be like. I mean,
do you think you both understood what it would be like to be a professional athlete?
No, we had no idea. I can speak on her behalf to say that, yeah, she was a little bit surprised too, but as was I, and we had no idea all the lifestyle changes that it would be to be playing professional sports, and everything from time management to the battles that you are encountering during a season or while you're playing, period. It was a whole new experience, but fortunately we have great people around us to be able to bounce ideas off of or talk through situations with. And obviously I have some great mentors of mine. I can think of guys like Simeon Rotier, really great guy who I've been able to connect with.
How important is it for you to have a support system, whether it be playing football or just life in general, just to walk through those days?
100%. It's very, very important. My whole story, you can kind of see different periods in my life where I was seeking that support system or that community. Like I remember going into university and having my parents move up north where they are right now, and my sister was in Calgary, and so all of a sudden I was in grade 12, kind of living on my own downtown, commuting to Sherwood Park for high school. I ended up kind of going through that process and knowing that, okay, now I'm going into university, and I was respecting my parents' advice that, well, you can get caught up into a lot of garbage at university. As great as university is, it's fantastic, but you can get into some trouble. And so I took that advice pretty seriously, and I was like, wow, I need to find a community. So I remember praying with my parents and on my own and thinking, well, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with, now I'm living downtown. I need some accountability. I'm now not attending the church that I used to go to now, because it's so far, so I'm going to be attending a new church. And so there's one example of where that support system or community was so important to me. And then obviously transitioning into the CFL has been the same thing, and transitioning out of Athletes in Action campus ministry now into the pro ministry. So there's no shortage of importance anywhere in life. Like, community is important everywhere, but I know I can speak for myself that it's been extremely important.
There are some who say that their first game is unforgettable. There's others who say that they don't remember because they're just trying to go through the motions and everything else. Do you remember your very first game?
CFL game?
Yeah.
Yeah, we was in Fort McMurray, and we were, it was the Northern Kickoff in 2015, so it was so exciting. Felt like I was in over my head, but honestly, it went really well. I was so nervous going to that game and seeing all these gigantic dudes that I'm no longer the big guy anymore. And I was like, holy smokes, how am I going to do my job? Got it done and actually had a pretty decent game, and I was floored. It was extremely hot, believe it or not, Fort McMurray. Extremely hot that game, like one of the hottest games I've played in, and it was a lot of fun, but it was a challenging game for sure.
2015 was your rookie season.
Yep.
You also won the championship that year too.
That's right. Yep.
So that's uncommon in itself, that usually a rookie is able to win a Grey Cup ring their first year too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't bring it, but it was a unforgettable experience. And I hear about stories over and over again, guys, 8, 9, 10 years that are chasing this ring for forever. And some of them never do get it, unfortunately. But to have that happen in your first year was pretty cool. I wish I was able to contribute a little bit more in my first year, just because I broke my thumb shortly after that. So I made it through 9 games and then ended up breaking my hand, so I wasn't able to
still get a ring.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I paid my dues, so yeah.
Every game counts, right?
Yeah, that's true. Gotta play the role, whatever role you need to play. So,
So on a scale from 1 being non-existent to 10 being the best ever, how are you at your trash talk game?
1.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
If I'm being honest, yeah. I was wondering if you're going to ask that. Honestly, way too busy just trying to do my job. I have like 0 trash talk ability. So, I hear some superstars in the field, and I can name a few, but like they're good at what they do, and I'll just stick to what I do. No trash talking.
Well, isn't it where they say, I mean, as an old lineman, as long as they're not mentioning your name, that means that you had a really good game?
It's better to go unnoticed.
Right?
Yeah. So.
Just do those little things right.
Yeah, exactly.
You, you are a professional athlete. You've now been in it for a couple of years. How important is it for you to have a role in the community?
I think it absolutely is a huge importance. I remember talking to my wife about that as we got drafted, and then we're thinking, oh my goodness, this is real. This is actually happening. Like, what if I actually make the team? Like, what if this opportunity really go somewhere? And I remember talking with her about that and saying, this is a pretty cool gift from God, and we wanted to make sure that we made the most out of it. And so we kind of made a commitment between each other that if this was something that we were able to be given this platform, that we'd have to be able to use it. And so stuff like this, or being able to speak with different groups of kids or churches, whatever it is something that I personally have made a commitment to wanting to do. And that's where I've found the most I don't know if at peace is the right word, but the most confident, or feeling like that's what I should be spending my time doing, is speaking with some churches and stuff like that. And that's something that, like I said, is something that I committed to with Vanessa back when we first got drafted, knowing that this is a pretty cool platform, and if I'm going to be given the opportunity to play football, which is fun, then I got to make the most out of it. It's pretty short-lived, so.
I know that Athletes in Action has played a pivotal role in your life. Mm-hmm. And as an athlete, why is Athletes in Action so important for a player like you, for a league like the CFL, for a guy like Chappie?
Athletes in Action as a whole, or sports ministry as a whole, I should say, because Athletes in Action is just one title that you can put on it, but it's just ministry within sport. And that is so important. I've been able to reap the benefits of it, but I think what it does is professional sports as a whole, there's a lot of pressure, and they're is also some negative culture involved with it. And there's a lot of freedom and resources that you can be spending or using the wrong way at a young age as you kind of come into the pro sports world. And so I think that pro sport ministry not only helps you in your spiritual walk, your development as potentially a believer, it gives you an opportunity to incorporate your faith in sport.
I remember watching, was it on ESPN 50? Something
30
about,
for 30?
Yeah, 30 for 30. They were talking about the young guys going into the NFL and how they have such a short, career, and they tend to end up being worse off for being in the NFL, just based on the culture and all of that. So it's interesting to hear, like for you, how integral it was to have that support and that guiding and just dealing with that. Because you don't go to school and like, hey, if you want to be an athlete, these are the tools you need to be successful.
I got a PhD in athletics.
Yeah,
Seriously.
they're more like, maybe try to go into get an MBA or like, get some kind of education behind you. They kind of just like the sports is just the dream, but let's focus on the reality. But the dream does happen, and it shouldn't be ignored.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, you go from, I'll speak for myself, you go from being in university and like getting just enough student loans to pay for your groceries to then having a salary where you're like, wow, what do I do with this? Like, how do I spend this wisely, or how do I set myself up and my family up for the future? You know what I mean? So that's like one piece of the puzzle, just finances, but then there's kind of everything else to go with it, right? So
do teams offer that to new players, or are you off on your own as soon as you sign that contract?
What? Offer what?
Financial education.
Well, financial education, or you are now an athlete, and people in the media, don't be an idiot and go to the bar and do something stupid. Or do you get that sort of guidance as soon as you sign on as a football player?
Yeah, I mean, and you get a little bit in university as well. Like, you do have a bit of a platform in university as well, so you are exposed to that a little bit, how to behave and how to conduct yourself, and things you should do and things you shouldn't do. But yeah, once you get into CFL, there's definitely some financial counseling that they'll do to help you how to set up your RSPs and how to put money away, and they show you the growth charts. If you don't spend all that money, then here's what happens in 60 years. You know what I mean? So they definitely have stuff in place to set you up for success. Yeah.
You've had an opportunity to speak. You've had an opportunity to go to schools, and there are kids who come up and run up to you and say, "David, I want to be a football player. I want to be just like you." What advice do you have for kids who want to be that professional athlete?
Well, I'm trying to imagine if some kid just ran up to me and
or
said,
older guys like me. David, I want to be like you.
Well, if you really want to be a football player, go for it. Buy in all the way. Whatever you're doing, do everything all in. Just count the cost. Everything comes with a cost, and including professional sports. You think it's kind of fun and all glamorous or whatever. You get to play sports and run out on the field and everyone's cheering. That's pretty cool, but talk to somebody who's been through it, who's kind of walked the walk or walked the talk, and put a mile in the shoes, and find out what all those costs are, and see if you're willing to pay those costs, and know that if it's something that's you really will have a passion for and you really want to do, then do it all in. You gotta sell out. So yeah, that's what I would say.
And it also helps when you're 6'5".
Yeah,
that's true.
That
is true.
300+ pounds.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, it was off my radar before I had kind of transitioned to offensive line the last 2 years. It was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. There's no way. But
here you are.
Here I am.
And you're also a new dad.
That's true.
How has that changed your perspective on football and life?
There's some tough days in football. There sure is. Playing that last week of football this season was one of those tough weeks. But my goodness, having a little dude at home, man, takes all your worries away. It's pretty fun being able to have a little kid to be able to come home to, and that as soon as he sees you already knows you and will smile at you, and it's like, man, that's so cool. So I'm really enjoying that part of it, but it's pretty special. It has its challenges, of course, but it's fun.
Are you the type of person, if you guys lose a game, do you hold on to that, or as soon as you walk off the field, that's over with and on to the next one?
I don't think I let go of it right away, but I don't beat myself up to the point where it's detrimental, I don't think. Obviously, that kind of goes with ongoing reflection, but no, it's something that it always leaves a bitter taste in your mouth if things aren't going your way, but that's back to that support group community thing. It's so important to have good people around you, because you're able to kind of voice your concerns or voice your frustrations, and you can kind of roll with that, and they'll kind of help you and give you some good perspective, and everyone kind of needs that. So,
well, as you look back over your life, this is the Why Me Project, so time to talk about that Why Me moment.
Yeah.
It could be in a valley, it could have been on a mountaintop.
Yeah.
Was there any point that you had said, why me to God?
Honestly, I was doing a lot of figuring out up until that pro opportunity came into my life. I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I had a lot of different ideas or pokers in the fire, so to speak. Once God kind of put that pro football in my life, then that was kind of like, whoa, that's pretty cool. It still has that wow factor for sure, but I think that might be my why me is, why have you given me this opportunity to, number one, play a sport that I love for so long, but number two, be able to, obviously seeing this over time, is to be able to have that platform to be able to be a light and not put the light under a bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So
Or a cup.
Or a cup.
Consider there.
It's gotta be on the lampstand.
Yeah.
Gotta be on the lampstand.
I don't know how to put a light in a cup.
No.
A gray cup.
Yeah, I put a light in a gray cup. For sure. Maybe a flashlight.
Yeah. A few of them.
Yeah.
You can follow him on @BeardDL45 on Twitter, because it's the most complicated Twitter handle ever. Brother, we hope you enjoy the off season, and we can't wait. We're already counting down the moments for the 2019 season to start. David, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to an old episode, a past guest of our Why Me Project rerun.
Something that we're starting now because there were so many episodes that we really did love, and they've kind of disappeared from the digital world.
And speaking of digital world, I did a little recon. There are at least 9 different platforms in which you can listen to the Why Me Project podcast.
Okay.
So there's no excuses, but I mean, some of the main ones like Apple Podcast and or Spotify.
And you could always head to our social media accounts to stay up to date, as each and every Wednesday we have a brand new episode for Why Me Project. And you can also let us know if there's someone that you would like to hear on a future episode.
At Why Me Project on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Why Me Project at Outlook.com.